welcome back to Transport Fever 2. Welcome back to Bonneyville, welcome back to the PlayStation 5, welcome back to my channel. Thank you very much for joining me once again, and if you are joining me, please do hit that like and do subscribe to the channel. I have bad news, sad news, perhaps even. This is the last of Bonneyville. Yes, I know we're all terribly sad to see it go, but everything that has a beginning also has an end, and this is most definitely the end. It's January 1st, 1990, but you know, let's be glad, because we did achieve quite a few things that we set out to achieve, and I'm quite happy about that. First off, let's talk about our stated goal. So I'll let this just run because. So our stated goal was to try and get all of our towns up to 1,000 pop. Well, we haven't managed to do that. We have here 5 at 1,000, and then we have 5 below 1,000. We did get El Puerto over 500 in the end, but yeah, sadly, I think we're not going to be able to get everything over 1,000. If we just look at the target here, you'll see that even if we were to follow the current trajectory, by 2021, we might have 600. Now, I did say a while ago that I wasn't even sure if we could get to 1,000. And I don't think we can. I mean, I could, because I have the ability to mess around with towns and industries. So I can come down here and I can start adding industries. Because the issue, I think, is that I can't get these to grow any larger, because all of these places are as maxed out as they are currently going to be shipping stuff around the map. So the only way to get these to go bigger is to either find more places to ship them to, or for the towns to find more industries to ship stuff to the towns. And we don't have that. Everything that we need to get to where we need to get it is being got to where it needs to be got. So I think that's the situation. Something else that I noticed in relation to the thousands is this thing here, which we briefly talked about down at the bottom, which says target pop, and I can't select it, and it doesn't show me, it doesn't help me or give me any hints here whatsoever. The target population, that's an interesting one. So I mean, obviously what this shows you is the target population and the modifier, and the target population, if we were getting no negatives but no positives and everything was 0, would be 210, but obviously we're getting a 420% modifier, and that's giving us a population of 1,092. Now, this over here only has a target population of 98. So if I wanted to get this to 1,000, I would need to have a modifier of 1,010%, and that's just not possible. So this place, maybe we'll get to 600 in 2021, but it ain't going to be getting anywhere near to 1,000. Now, how that changes, I don't know. But if we just quickly have a look, I'll go back and have a look at this in the main menu, and I'll just explain something to you. Right, so here you are. So in the free game, when you're setting up your game and you go through the custom settings, you go to the advanced settings. If you scroll down past the finances and so on, stuff like that, you have these multipliers for town growth. Now, this is what I was talking about with the multipliers. So there's 125%. So I think what this basically means is if the emissions are really, really bad, it has a negative 125% on your growth and so on. I think these were the settings I had. So private transport was only adding 75 and cargo was adding 100. I think these are just kind of like the vanilla settings. So if you crank those up to 125 all the way, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 750. So that's 125 is 250 times 3. That's 750. I know my math's not perfect. So that's what I mean by the multiplier based on the target population. So if you have the target population of 100, then your 750% multiplier is going to multiply that, uh, is going to add on another 750, which means that you will get to 850. So I believe, anyway. Right, so we're back again. So I don't know, when you set up a new map, the towns are obviously quite small. Um, so you have towns that have target populations of like, well, like this, 158 and 149, and maybe not as high as 204. I didn't really pay attention through the game to determine if that target population actually changes, and if it does, how it changes. It seems like it's gone up a little bit, but I could be wrong. This looks like your pretty average target population. So I don't know exactly what factors into that. I think it might have something to do maybe with the products. So with only 2 products, you get a certain size. Then when you add 2 more, it gets bigger. And then when you add 2 more, I think you can go out to a maximum of 6 products on console. You can get a little bit further. The long and the short of all of this is I don't think that we can get these to go any further. And with all of my modifiers and everything in place as they currently stand, I think the best that we can get is quite a bit short of 750. And what we've got here is growth down at the bottom. The highest I've had is around about 480, 490, maybe even 500, which sounds like that's about max. So I haven't quite maxed these out in terms of growth. I should probably say that also the issue here is emissions. So the emissions are dragging us down. Poor and very poor is dragging us down. So I won't fully realize whatever that total number is. So there you go. So we've done a bit. We have done a bit, and 5 out of 10. That's not bad. 5 out of 10, and Antiquaire is close. And everything's really quite well supplied. None of these places are super like backed up. They're busy. Yeah, of course they're busy. I'm moving a lot of product around the map. There's a lot of product being moved around. Down here, this became a big hub. We have obviously the Villa de Cans hub, which was always planned to be a big hub. And the other big hub that ended up, well, Rivas was at one point a big hub. It's calmed down a lot now, but Ubeda is now our other big hub. And you can see there's a lot of things going through there. Maybe a little bit of backup of goods there, but it's a lot less than it was at one stage. So, yeah, so we ended up with 2 hubs at either end of the map and Villa de Cans in the middle. And then this guy over here doing all of its kind of stuff. All of the trucks are moving around. Everybody's going everywhere. Everything is busy. All of the truck stops are busy. Yes, they are. But there's not any major log jams. There's little log jams from time to time. Of course there is. Little things going on. But everything's moving. Nothing's broken. Everybody's okay. We got airports going. Ubeda turned out to be a bit of a success. I had to make this bigger. It was so popular. I had to make it bigger, and this is where I found the runway. You see, here's second runway. So I think you can runway adds a second runway. I don't even know where you can put it. You put it there. It won't let me put it there. Why won't it let me put it there? Because adds a second runway, which allows building a second taxiway. I don't know. The train line is giving it cause for concern. That there's a bird shadow. Anyway, where's the other one? Let's have a look at the other one. Is the room on this side? No, there's a road. What about on this side? This side might be fine. Configure. Can we configure out here? No, we can't. Okay. Well, that's not helpful at all. Anyway, there you go. So we had a little bit of a success with Ubeda and everything else. And we had to do some stuff and tweak some things and add some lines and stuff. But at the end of the day, it's all window dressing. Not a huge amount of stuff is now happening. I've been doing this for 10 years and honestly, not a lot has changed. So, given that this is the wrap up for the end of this series and this game, I don't imagine I will be playing any more Transport Fever 2 or doing any more series on the channel. I may do some offline if I'm feeling a little bit bored and I want to mess around, trying a few things. I might do what I might say is what I might find more interesting is a large map or maybe even a small map with a small number of towns but lots of industries, and try and get a couple of really big towns, but like not trying to do so many towns just out of interest. Um, but anyway, on that, let's talk about a couple of things. Let's talk about the good, the bad, and the very, very ugly. Good wise, it's entertaining. I've spent over 500 hours in this, and there's some reasonable models and things in here. It is a bit City Skylines ish and a bit Build Mars, and there's an awful lot of repetition and so on and so forth. I'm trying to have a look at some of the vehicle models are quite interesting. They're quite good. You've got the Sims wandering around. You got some nice little houses and some variety of houses. They all seem to be pretty good. So overall it kind of looks okay. It doesn't look too bad. Certainly there's some really nice features, as I've said before. The ability to lay the tracks very next to each other and bump up to each other and everything else is very, very good, and you can modify the tracks quite easily. That's a very good thing. For example, with this, and I've mentioned before, the fact that you can delete a whole airport and drop in an entirely new airport and not have to repair any of the lines is an absolute godsend. It really is. Same with some of these things, some of these absolute monstrous things. If you were to have to delete this and rebuild it, it would be a nightmare in terms of linking all the lines up. I mean, with this one in particular, how many things are connected to this? So that's really good. That's very good. It's good in kind of the way the products and the productions and things are relatively balanced. Do bear in mind I have a mod on, so I have a scalable mod, which is why I've got so many different levels. I don't know how well this works on the vanilla game, but I wanted something with a little bit more ability to it to scale up. So that's pretty good. Yeah, so overall that's not too bad. There's some stuff that's pretty good about that. Um, Probably, to be honest though, I think that's really it. I mean, in general, keeping things moving, it's very reasonably balanced in terms of being, as I've said, dynamic balance. One of the things, for example, that was one of the things that I had to keep a very close eye on as the towns got bigger is the areas that demand things change. So you might start off with a commercial area over here, but your town will gradually morph and things will change and things will happen. So you do need to keep an eye on things. And that's not a bad thing, right? That's not a bad thing. That is a good thing. So we like that. We like that ability to do all those bits and pieces and move things around and do all the rest of it. That's not a problem. In terms of the bad, though, there's a couple of things. There's not a lot of difference between the maps, and the maps really don't make any difference to anything that you're doing, short of like water. If you have obviously large expanses of water that you have to get across, that's fine. And we've had a look at some island maps that are pretty tricky because you have a town on an island, and if you're trying to supply that town early on, you can't afford big bridges like this that are 15, 20 million a piece. Later on, I mean, I've got nearly 20 billion, so I could pretty much do exactly what I like, and I've had billions for quite some time, so it's not exactly a problem. But overall, they're very samey, right? There's not a lot of scalability, not a lot of change, not a lot of variation. The land is honestly very flat. On most of the maps, but then you get these like random little things in between. But they don't really honestly affect much. You can kind of get around them without too much trouble, and you can just build a walloping great big tunnel if you fancy. So the maps themselves don't have a great deal of diversity, and they don't have a great deal of impact on what you're doing. The other thing that's not so good is perhaps the amount of assets that you have to choose from. And again, you can obviously get loads and loads of mods, but at the end of the day, there's not enough fine tuning possible here. You end up kind of using one thing for a very extended period of time. This is around for 60 years. So I use this thing for a very extended period of time, which means there's not enough variation in the units that come along to warrant me changing this. It's like this was a good all-rounder for everything for a long, long time, and there wasn't enough options to kind of fine-tune and say, oh, maybe I want something different, maybe I want something of this, maybe I want something of that, and that was perfectly fine. And I would say the same about trucks, which are down here. So the trucks are the same. Often, especially with buses, you don't have very much choice. There's like 20 or 30 or 40 years where you're just like using one bus. You're just like, well, I'm just going to use that bus because there's not enough variation between the buses, and the same with the vehicles. Once you end up heading on something like the man tarpaulin truck, that's like 40 years you're just using the one truck. Why? Because there's not enough variation. These trucks are smaller and slower. This truck is bigger, but way, way, way slower. So it doesn't help out, and then you get new stuff as you go on. So the variation, especially though with planes, is a problem, especially if you're down on a small airport. If you're using a small regional airport, you have one choice and that's it. You just get the Shorts 330 Sherpa. So unless you're using mods, that's it. That's all you have. There's no variability. There's no variation at all. At the outset, you get about 2 or 3, but that's it. I mean, this is incomplete. So this is not a complete function of the game. So the variability, and the same goes with ships. We don't have any ships down here. We did briefly use ships. They don't work very well on this map, but we did have ships. So the variation in stuff is pretty bad. When we're looking at airports in general, I've found them not to really work very well. I mean, I do have some airlines coming in here and some people moving around, and that's all well and good. Part of this, as I've said, is you've got a plane here that carries 12 people. Well, that's not enough. It's not enough. Planes carry a lot more than 12 people. A plane of this size, the Shorts 330, is going to carry about 60 or something people, right? And this thing's going to carry a lot more than that, like 110 or something. So it's not really reflective, which also happens to be true of the buses. Because you're looking at some of these buses. This is a standard bus. This standard bus is carrying 16 people. No, a standard bus is about 50 or 70 people, including those standing. So a bus carries a lot of people, and that's simply not enough. And the same with trains. You've got these trains going down here. Look at how many carriages there are on this train. 168. I bet you I could probably fit 168 people in one carriage. This thing could carry a lot more than 168. There's like 20 people in a carriage. No way. Nah, not happening. There's way more people in there. Way more people in there. This is like, a 500 capacity train. For what it costs. These trains don't come cheap, these trains, right? Trains in general, everything in general does not come cheap. This train here, this is being pulled by this thing, which is 2.9 million, and we have 8 of these, which is 450,000 each. So 2 of those is nearly a million, and we got four of that. So there's like another 3 odd million. So each one of these trains is like 6 million to buy. It's like, yeah, okay, maybe that's not what real trains cost, but heavens above, it's a lot of money to be transporting 100 people. Which brings me on to another bad thing, which is kind of interesting, is the lack of options for a transport game. As a transport game, we don't actually have any options to do anything in terms of money. So when we're setting up these private lines that run around the cities and things, we don't get to choose. Where's this bus? We don't get to choose what the bus fare is, or the train fare, or the anything else. It tells me that I'm losing money on this bus when I go, okay, maybe should increase the fare on this bus and see if we can make more money. And if we can't make more money, maybe sell some buses or whatever. I don't get that option, which for a transport game, I mean, that's a fundamental part of transport logistics, is trying to figure out what you're going to bill people. But it's missing, so we don't have that. Cargo? Yeah, okay, cargo just kind of does its own things. But again, maybe that's an option. How much are you going to charge for transporting cargo? So we can't choose the pricing models that we want to use. We're just stuck with what? Something? We don't even know. There's not even an economy tab. We don't even know. We can't even manipulate. It's just happening. So, for a game that focuses on transport and logistics, not actually having an economy is a bit weird. Also, while we are focusing on transport and logistics, one of the other things that is not so good are these roads. We have no ability to do anything with these roads, or hamper these roads, or do anything with them whatsoever. They're built in, they arrive by themselves, they come in, they do weird things. Safe I did a bit of grid work with, but I mean, if we have a look over here, what are they doing out here? What is this about? What is that about? And we had Tomaloso, which is like, they just spread up to the mesa up here, which is just, this is not realistic. This is madness, and the game shouldn't do that. I put the road in, and that's fine. I put a road in there to get out of here because it was the only realistic way I could see to get stuff from the mesa down into the actual places it was supposed to be. But this is lunacy. This is, who has that house? I wouldn't want to sit out there. Imagine if you had a small dog or a child. It's like, no, you haven't even got a fence. Would you want to sit there and have a few drinks? I wouldn't. Sit outside, have a few drinks. No thanks. I hope you don't mind. In fact, I don't even want to be in your house. Could we be in the house across the road just in case? So this stuff, what are you doing? Just look at this rock up here. This is not safe. Who gave you planning permission to do this? So yeah, so that's bad. I mean, and that's bad. That's super bad. Some of the other things is, especially with roads, road building, is road junctions. Oh, we can't. We just have so little options in terms of, like, look at this, the way this goes here, and like the way road junctions work, it really is, you don't really have an option. You've got this, or eventually a roundabout, and the roundabouts don't come in till way too late in the game. As I've said, roundabouts should be available right from the very, very beginning that you get asphalt roads, because roundabouts have been around for a very long time. It's not a crazy idea. So we really do have very little. And the other thing that we don't really have in roads is you can do it yourself, but we don't have like 2-lane highways. I'd have to make a highway, I have to make a line that way, and then I have to make a line that way. And that's what I have to do. Why can't we just have a highway drawing tool that comes in? And while we're on that one way, there's no tool to change direction, which I've said before. So you do something and you build a one-way road, and you realize that you've accidentally built it the wrong way. You can't go back and change that. So again, for a transport game, that's really disappointing. Really disappointing that you don't have more control over the roads, the kinds of roads, the types of roads, how the roads are going to work in the cities or not going to work in the cities. And you know, ultimately it ends up being the way all this stuff blends together is the best thing that you possibly want to do right at the outset when it doesn't really matter is start each town on a grid and you just end up with a grid town, you know. And I dare say someone will probably tell you that they've worked it out, that you see there's a space in there, that they've probably worked out exactly what the grid size is that you need these to be, so there's no spaces. So you can say, well, if you build a grid this size, it will always fill in completely. This one's nearly complete. So, yeah, and okay, this is not a city builder game. So this is not about building cities. This is about transport to cities. While we are talking about that, there's really not enough options for your transport connections. So this is all you've got in terms of buildings. I've got one truck station and one bus station. And when it comes to trains, I've got one particular kind of cargo station here, too, a terminus and the other one, and they're not actually wildly different, you know. And this is mods that I got in, the elevated station and stuff that I got in. That's a mod. Great. That's a great looking mod, actually. Very good. Worked very well if bridges weren't such a nightmare. You know, and we got the open cut station and we tried to work that in, but we found out again that the problem with the open cut station is, maybe because it's a mod, over here is, you can't get these tunnels to line up. Look at this. Look what happened here. This is me just trying to make tunnels and it made this mess. So yeah, so that's actually bordering on the very, very ugly, to be fair. So yes, there's not a lot of options actually. It's all very basic, is what I would say. Is they've given you just enough to say it's a fully functional game, um, and that's essentially it. Which I guess brings us to the very, very ugly. So, yeah, for sure, definitely, things like this, things like these things here are very, very ugly. You can't fix that. You know, over here, down here, this is very ugly. You can't fix that. Either the game pulls in some very strange things that don't work very well. Um, Over on which one was it? Was it this one? Yeah, over here. Things like this with rail bridges. This is pretty ugly. It's not, again, for a transport simulator. The fact that it has so many issues with bridges in particular, is a real problem. You know, you end up with some funny, strange, wonky looking things. And, you know, as I've said to you before, if we have a look at the smoothie tool, this stuff happening here, this is ugly. This is, why is this doing this? What is the story with this about? You end up with these issues around tunnels where you're there's water there. It's like some kind of code in the map or something that's breaking it, which makes it really rather of a nuisance, and makes it really very ugly, for sure. The other thing is, I, I'll just insert a brief image here, which is one of the loading screens, and it shows like, I guess, you know, an artist's rendition of a busy looking town. I've never seen any city look like that in this game. For a start, this is my largest town. Where is all the cars? Where are all the people? Where is all the hustle and bustle about which you speak? There's no vehicles here. The whole place is deserted. It's my biggest place. Look at that. It is my biggest place, and it's empty. It doesn't bear any resemblance whatsoever. This is the main street. Crickets. You know what I mean? Crickets. 4 a.m. on a Wednesday night. This is just... There's nothing here. There's nothing here. There's no... There's no vitality to any of these, which may be necessary because my biggest problem is this place. Because every time I try and reconfigure anything on this place, it starts to get a problem. Even just, I think, on one of these, trying to get one of these lines here to, we'll go to the Ubeda thing, trying to get this to work, it often gets stuck and freezes. It's going to work now, of course, perfectly well, but it does often freeze, and it really badly functions. And I've showed you before, at least I think I've showed you before, you know what happens when you try and do it in edit mode. This is edit mode. This is in real time. This is not me messing around. I'm just trying. Just that's me just trying to select actually the train station. So that's pretty darn ugly in terms of trying to modify things and do things and everything else. One of the last things perhaps to say that is very ugly is to do with all of this stuff, which is menus. I have massive, great big swollen thumbs from the amount of thumb presses it takes to go through menus selecting things. It's just driving me insane. Especially this one. This one here, where you have to scroll up, and then you have to scroll over, and then you have to pick over here, and then you have to do that, and then you have to do something else up here, and then you have to select this. There's so many button presses, so many menus, so many issues with various bits and pieces that you need to go through, that you need to have a look at, and then when you got those in place, you can't get out of that, you have to go back again, you have to do something else, and you have to look at that to click out of that. The whole menu system is an absolute nightmare, and I am also very sick of it. It is ugly as anything. So there you go. That is Transport Fever 2. Do enjoy it. Tell all your friends. Yeah. Anyway, that to me, you know, impinges on the replayability, because I did this and I really persevered with this, and I have done a lot of time on this map to go through everything, get used to everything, see how everything gelled together, really get to grips with the game after 500 hours of playing. And after that amount of time, what I can say is I don't think I'm going to be picking this up again, other than maybe some brief little experiments about this or that or the other. And I might switch money off or do something else. There's no... It's the bad and the ugly severely outweigh the good so much that it's just infuriating after a while. I hope what that means is that for Transport Fever 3, we will see an awful lot better, some improvement, some changes to all of these things. I have a feeling this will go the way of City Skylines, that they will be unable to release it on console, and they will delay the release on console, and what console will get, if we get anything, will probably be quite a significantly watered down version, which seems to happen a lot with these things. I hope that's not the case. I really do hope that's not the case, but unfortunately, I'm an old cynic who's been around playing these games for way too long and seen too many promises be thrown under the bus, especially when it comes to console, for these types of games that, you know, people just tell me I'm on the wrong platform. For the type of games I want to play, I should just be on a big old grunty PC, which is fine. I'd love to be able to afford a big old grunty PC. I just don't have one. So there you go. Anyway, that's the end of Bonneyville. But let's not be sad. Let's be happy. Because there's always new things on the horizon, and there's always a cloud to every silver lining. So I will see you all again at some point for the next one, whatever that may be. Frostpunk 2. It's probably likely to be some kind of a builder. Frostpunk 2. May have been recently released. Frostpunk 2. Or something. Could be. Who can say? if you have stuck with the series, I really would love to hear from you. Any comments, anything you have to say about the game, whether you have the game, whether you play the game, whether this has encouraged you to buy the game or not buy the game. Just because I don't see any longevity in it doesn't mean that you don't. Everybody's different. Everybody's got different needs. Um, what have you thought of this series? Do you like the series? Do you think I missed something? Do you think I had something so backwards that I'm kind of hindering my own game and seeing the game as negative when I should be seeing it as positive? All these things, quite happy to hear from you. Love to hear from you. Anytime you do, it's always great. I always read them and I always respond when I can, even if it's just a thumbs up. Do subscribe to the channel. It does help me an awful lot. Just like this map, my goal is 1,000 subscribers. I'm just over 500 currently, but my plan is ultimately to get to 1,000 subscribers, which would be nice. And I will see you all for the next one, Frostpunk 2, another time not so far away. See you all soon. Ta-ta for now.